Okay, looking at 1.3, solving equations with a variable on both sides. So we do have a vocabulary term here, and this is going to be an identity. And this is an equation that is true for all values of x. Okay, we'll look at an example of this here in a bit. So solve each equation. Is the equation an identity? Explain. So looking at A, we have 1/3 times the quantity D plus 4 minus 9 equals 1/2 times the quantity 6 minus D minus 4. So we're going to start off with the distributive property. So we're going to distribute this 1/3. So we have 1/3 D plus, so 1/3 times 4 is 4/3 minus 9 equals, so 1/2 times 6, distributing again, gives us 3 minus 1/2 D minus 4. Now I'm going to go ahead and multiply to get rid of our fraction. So we want to figure out what is our least common denominator. And if we take our denominators, we have 3 and 2. That multiplies to be 6. So we're going to multiply everything by 6. So we have 6 times 1/3 D, which would give us 6/3 D, because we're going to multiply our numerators because this is the same thing as 6 over 1. Just keep distributing. We have 6 times 4, which is 24, over 1 times 3, which is 3. And 6 times 9 is negative 54, which equals, okay, distribute again. We have 3 times 6 is 18, minus, and half times 6 is 3. And negative 4 times 6 is negative 24. Okay, we're going to reduce and simplify these fractions. So 6 divided by 3 is 2D. And then 24 divided by 3 is 8. Minus 54 equals 18 minus 3D minus 24. Okay, so we're going to combine like terms. So 8 minus 54 is going to be, we're going to have 2D minus 46 equals negative 3D. Now we're going to look at 18 minus 24 gives us a negative 6. Now we're going to move our variables to the same side. So I'm going to add 3D to move our variable to the left. 2D plus 3D is 5D. Minus 46 equals negative 6. Add 46 to both sides. So 5D equals negative 6 plus 46 is 40. Then divide both sides by 5, and D equals 8. So because we have a solution, that means that 8 is the only value that will make this equation true, which means no, it's not an identity. Okay. So looking at B, we have T minus 27 equals negative quantity of 27 minus T. So remember, whenever we don't have a number that represents a 1, so we have T minus 27 equals, and distribute this negative, we get negative 27, and negative 1 times negative T is a positive T. So we can use the commutative property now and rewrite this. So T minus 27 equals T minus 27, which shows us we have the same thing on both sides. Okay. Also, another thing we could do, we wanted to try to move our variable to the same side. We subtract t from both sides. T minus t is 0, or it cancels. So we get negative 27 equals negative 27, which is a true statement. So no matter what we plug in for x, or correction, sorry, anything we plug in for t in this example, we'll always get a true statement. So this is an example of an identity, which means our solution is all real numbers. Okay, another thing that you can see with this is a lot of times we'll say it has infinitely many solutions. Okay. All right, looking at C now. We're gonna do the same thing. So we're gonna start off with distributing. So we have 16 times 4, which is 64, minus 16 times 3m is 48m, which equals, okay, distribute our 96. So we have 96 times m over 2, which is going to give us negative 96m divided by 2. And 96 times 1 is 96. So if we divide negative 96 divided by 2, so we have 64 minus 48m equals, this is also negative 48m plus 96. So notice both sides are very similar. Okay, so if we go ahead and add 48m to move it to the left, our variables cancel. Okay, so we're left with 64 equals 96. But we know that that's not true, right? That's false. And this is an example of no solution. Which is clearly not an identity. Okay. All right, and looking at our last one, so we have 5/8 times the quantity 16d plus 24 equals 6 times the quantity d minus 1 plus 1. So I'm going to break this out in kind of a different way. So we're still going to distribute, but I'm not going to actually multiply this. I'm going to say we have 5 times 16d over 8. And then again, plus 5 times 24 over 8 equals, now we have 6 times d and 6 times negative 1, which I'm going to go ahead and write as negative 6 plus 1. So if you don't know what 5 times 16 is off the top of your head, we can go ahead and simplify this fraction. So instead of multiplying 5 times 16, I'm going to do 16 divided by 8, because I know that that's 2. And so now I can rewrite this as 5 times 2d, which is a lot easier to do in my head because I know that that's 10d. So if I look at the next one, we have 5 times 24. I don't know what that is, but I do know that 24 divided by 8 is 3. So we have plus 5 times 3, which is 15. And then bring everything else down. Equals 6d minus 6 plus 1. I'm going to go ahead and combine these. So this equals 6d minus 5. So that's another way you can simplify fractions without having to get a calculator. But again, a calculator is perfectly fine. So now I'm going to go ahead and switch back to blue. So I'm going to move our variable to the left-hand side by subtracting 6D. So we have 4D plus 15 equals -5. Subtract 15 on both sides. So 4D equals -20. Then to get D by itself, we're going to divide by 4. So D equals -5. Since we have one solution, that means it's not an identity.